Erica Parsons, for those who have not been following the story, was a little girl from North Carolina who had been missing since 2011. In September 2016, her body was finally found when her adoptive father, Sandy Parsons, led investigators to the site of her shallow grave on the family's South Carolina farm. Erica Parsons was born on February 24, 1998 in Mooresville, North Carolina to Carolyn Parsons and Billy Dean Goodman. Carolyn did not feel she could adequately care for Erica, along with her 3 other children, and Billy Dean Goodman had serious problems with substance abuse and was regularly in trouble with the law up to his death in January 2016 from natural causes. Wary of putting Erica in foster care, Carolyn instead agreed to have her ex-husband Steve Parsons' brother Sandy and his wife Casey adopt Erica in 2000. Erica was born with disabilities, including hearing loss, which was discovered when she briefly attended public school. Based on her features and reports of intellectual disability, it is likely that Erica also had fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. According to the Charlotte Observer, Sandy and Casey Parsons received federal money to assist with Erica's disabilities. They also received money from the state to care for her due to her status as adopted. For unknown reasons, Casey, Erica's adopted mother, pulled the child from public school when she was little and registered her home as a Christian homeschool. Due to the limited use in North Carolina that governed homeschool regulations, it was not difficult for Casey to establish a homeschool at her rural home outside Salisbury. Erica was likely not educated at this homeschool and certainly was not accommodated for her disabilities. Instead, she was routinely abused, starved, and neglected up to her disappearance, often kept in a closet and fed dog food. Federal testimony from family members and those who knew the Parsons indicate that Erica was left out of family activities and that her adoptive mother hated her and said she wanted to kill her. Casey Parsons' sister, Rob Ashley, testified in court that Casey couldn't stand the sight of Erica's face, refused to let Erica call her mom, and admitted to assaulting her. According to Robin, Erica reminded Casey of Carolyn Parsons, who she did not like, and told Robin she was afraid she might lose control and kill her. It is not uncommon in child abuse cases for one child in a family to be singled out for abuse, and often the reason is due to the child reminding the abusive parent of someone or something they do not like. Disability is a reason as well, and can intersect with other reasons for abuse, neglect, and homicide, or in some cases, be the sole reason for the abuse. In abusive families, the parents on occasion encourage everyone else to abuse the singled-out child, which is what happened to Erica. Erica's adoptive older brother Jamie testified that he had participated in abusing Erica from the time he was 5 years old to when he was 16 and could no longer stand it. At one point, he said he even broke her arm. The abuse inflicted on Erica by her parents escalated to homicide, as we now know, but for years, no one outside the family was aware that Erica was missing, including her biological mother. After she was finally reported missing by her brother Jamie in 2013, law enforcement looked into her disappearance. Jamie reported to police that he had not seen Erica since 2011. Casey and Sandy maintained that Erica's biological grandmother, Irene, Nan Goodman, had taken Erica to live with her in Asheville, and all was well. The FBI was not able to find evidence that Nan existed. There was no Irene in the Goodman family, as relatives from that side reported. Since Erica was homeschooled, that was one way in which her disappearance was kept hidden. North Carolina homeschool law does not require the state to make sure that children in homeschools are necessarily being educated, treated well, or accommodated for their disability. The official autopsy for Erica Parsons, released in January 2018, may not give a definite cause of death, but it does give insight into how the young girl lived before she was killed. The autopsy states Parsons' cause of death was homicidal violence of undetermined means. The coroner wrote, "We cannot exclude the possibility of a terminal blunt force injury, suffocation, or strangulation." Examiners found fractures in various stages of healing at her nose, jaw, upper right arm, scapula, the bone connecting the upper arm and collarbone, a finger, 7 ribs, some broken more than once, and left shin bone. She also had signs of spina bifida occulta, a mild form of birth defect in which a child's spine is not formed properly. At least one tooth was missing, and others showed signs of being broken, the report said. Erica may have been suffering from an untreated infection or sepsis, renal failure, poisoning, or rhabdomyolysis, a breakdown of muscle that released a damaging protein into the blood. That day in South Carolina was tough on all of us, Rowan County Sheriff Kevin Oughton said. I saw some pretty tough cops take it pretty rough. The autopsy found the girl was malnourished and had been abused over a long period of time. Sandy Parsons had allegedly admitted his harsh treatment of the girl, including beating her with a belt, bending her fingers backward, locking her in a closet, and choking her. On July 30th, 2014, Sandy and Casey Parsons were arrested in Fayetteville on federal fraud charges. The couple had been receiving monthly checks of $634 for adoption assistance and continued cashing those checks after Erica was no longer living with them. They also continued to claim Erica on their taxes. Casey Parsons pled guilty to 15 charges while Sandy opted for a trial. A jury found Sandy Parsons guilty on most of the charges in October 2014. At a sentencing hearing in federal court on February 18, 2015, Jamie Parsons and Robin Ashley testified about abuse Erica received at the hands of the Parsons family. Federal prosecutor Anand Ramaswamy said there was no record of Erica during the time her adoptive parents illegally accepted money, claiming, "The reason is she's no longer alive." The hearing was continued until March 27th. Prosecutors also presented evidence of a series of scams allegedly perpetrated by Casey Parsons. In 2000, Casey was hired to be a surrogate mother. She became pregnant and took a payment of $10,000 for her services. Weeks later, she called the biological mother, Amy Miller, to say that she had miscarried. Miller says she believed Casey was still pregnant as Casey refused to turn over medical records, changed her phone number, and sent her nasty emails. Casey then offered to sell the baby to her sister Robin, who in turn searched for Miller online to tell her Casey was indeed still pregnant and that Casey had taken money from 2 other couples who wanted to adopt the baby. Miller was able to take custody of her child at birth after getting law enforcement involved. Evidence was also presented of an eBay scam where Casey accepted money for items listed on eBay but never sent the items. Judge Schroeder called Casey a serial swindler. Bank statements showed twice in August 2011 that Sandy Parsons took thousands of dollars from a SunTrust account the couple shared. Casey Parsons also claimed to be a first-time home buyer in order to seek money from the government. She claimed she had bought an $80,000 home when she had not. On March 27, 2015, U.S. District Judge Thomas Schroeder sentenced Casey Parsons to 10 years and her husband to 8 years for fraud. Schroeder believed Casey was the brains behind what happened, said Erica, enduring horrific abuse, saying that the fraud distracted investigators from the other problems. Both parents have appealed their sentences. The United States Supreme Court rejected Sandy Parsons' appeal in June 2016. Sandy and Casey Parsons appeared on the Dr. Phil talk show. As part of the show, Sandy took a polygraph and was considered strongly deceptive by the former FBI agent who administered the test. Casey Parsons claimed to be experiencing a high level of pain which could invalidate a polygraph, and never completed it. On February 19, 2018, a grand jury indicted both Sandy and Casey Parsons. They are charged with first-degree murder, felony child abuse inflicting serious injury, felony concealment of death, and felony obstruction of justice. Casey Parsons was brought to Rowan County for a court appearance on March 14, 2018, while Sandy Parsons was brought back for a court hearing on March 15th. Prosecutors announced in April 2018 that they are seeking the death penalty for both Casey and Sandy Parsons. More than 6 years after she disappeared, Erica Parsons' remains were returned to Rowan County. On February 25, 2017, family, law enforcement officers, and strangers filled First Baptist Church for a funeral service. Most of those gathered inside the church had never met Erica Parsons, who would have celebrated her 19th birthday the day before her funeral. Erica was 13 when she disappeared from her Salisbury home in 2011, was laid to rest in a small white casket covered with pink, purple, and white flowers. In eulogizing Erica, Kenneth Lance, pastor of First Baptist Church of Salisbury, said that her purpose in life and death is to bring awareness and action against child abuse occurring at the hands of the wicked and foolish. Sheriff Otten said, "Those in the local community think that Parsons should have been hung in the square." However, he said the couple would have their day in court and will let a jury decide their fate. For updates on this case, you can follow the Facebook page called Erica Parsons Updates.